Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. We're going to go ahead and get our meeting started. If you're here to speak, remember to fill out a comment card and to make it known so that we can make sure to call your name when ready. I'm going to go ahead and read our rules. First, I'm going to do the roll call, though. And our computers are not working, is that correct? Okay, so we're going to have to vote by calling everybody. Way down there.
Commissioner Poche, present.
All right, next.
Commissioner Kepper, present.
Joshi Gupta, present.
Flick, present.
Wittry is present.
Commissioner Jordan, present.
Perfect, thank you. The City Planning Commission has established certain rules governing the procedures to be followed at public hearings. Before speaking, each person shall give their name, address, and who he or she is representing. Proponents for the proposal will speak for a period of 10 minutes. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Opponents or other interested parties will speak for a period of 15 minutes. Each speaker shall be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Proponents will be allowed a period of 6 minutes for a rebuttal. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 2 minutes. Opponents will not be allowed to rebut. No written matter, photographs, maps will be accepted by the commission or its staff at any time during this public hearing unless we suspend the rules and vote and allow that material to be submitted. And let's move on to our first item, which is the adoption of the meeting minutes from March 10th.
Commissioner Flick will make a motion to adopt March 10th meeting minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Commissioner Jordan will second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, questions? If not, then let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Joshi Gupta? Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Wittry? Yes. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
So the motion carries, the meeting minutes are passed. It's now working? Oh, okay. It's a farce, mirage. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to zoning docket 03026.
Zoning docket 3026 is a request for zoning change from an HURD 2 historic urban two-family residential district to an HUB1A historic urban neighborhood business district, and a conditional use to permit a standard restaurant. This request would allow for the existing legally non-conforming restaurant, Café Manu, to be conditionally permitted as a standard restaurant. While standard restaurants may pose negative impacts on residential areas, the proposed conditional use would be operational in nature. The site features a historical commercial structure that has been in operation since at least 1929, and no modifications or additions to the building footprint nor the facade are proposed. As a historic commercial structure, the site qualifies under the historic non-conforming use policy, and the district HUB1A would be a more accurate and effective zoning classification for the property. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the requested zoning change and conditional use to permit a standard restaurant subject to 2 provisos.
Thank you very much. We have several cards in this matter, so I'm going to call a couple names. Please be prepared to speak. Manny Dawes, Avery Fournay, Becca Grieger. And please remember to state your name and address for the record. You got 2 minutes.
Okay. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Manny Dawes from 5433 Laurel Street, and I'm the owner of Café Malu. I was born and raised in New Orleans, not far from the restaurant at Annunciation Street End State, and I'm proud to live right here in this neighborhood. I've spent decades owning and operating restaurants, mostly in New York City, and I returned home to New Orleans 12 years ago to raise my family and continue my love of hospitality here. Opening Café Malu was very intentional for me. I wanted to create a place that truly felt like home, both for myself and for the community. I love connecting with guests, and this neighborhood has been incredibly welcoming. I'm continually struck by the range of people who come through our doors, from families with small children to teenagers stopping in for a matcha to our beloved seniors. One of our regulars is 94 years old and makes his way over from Porges Home at least 3 times a week. These are the kinds of connections that motivate us every day to create a place that feels warm and welcoming, where people can gather, feel comfortable, and enjoy being together. For those of you who may not be familiar, Cafe Malu is a very small neighborhood-focused cafe. We have about 30 seats inside and another 20 outside when weather allows. From the beginning, our vision has been to create a warm, approachable space centered on quality food, hospitality, and a strong sense of community. Since opening in early October, I've truly enjoyed every minute of getting to know so many regulars and becoming part of their daily routines. Today, I'm here to request the ability to serve alcohol as an accessory to our food service, things like a mimosa with brunch or a glass of wine with lunch. This will not be a bar. In fact, I've made several commitments that reflect exactly how we operate. There will be no full bar, no holding bar, and alcohol will only be served to seated guests at tables. These are not just conditions, they reflect the kind of environment I want Cafe Malu to remain: calm, welcoming, and neighborhood-oriented. I also want to be clear that we are committed to being good neighbors. The addition of alcohol is not intended to increase traffic or change the character of our business. It is simply meant to complement the dining experience and help support the long-term sustainability of the cafe. I understand the concerns around the parking in the area, and we have taken that seriously. We have agreed to remove the 15-minute parking zone adjacent to Cafe Malu and Octavia Books to free up additional parking. I have also committed to ensuring that my employees do not park it within a 3-block radius of the cafe. This is something we already strongly encourage and will continue to enforce. Ultimately, the Cafe Malu that our neighbors have come to know will remain the same in scale, atmosphere, and intention. We are not seeking to expand the physical
Thank you, ma'am.
footprint of the
That's your
space.
time. And thank you. Thank you. Ms. Forney?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Avery Foray, Sherman Strategies, 800 Barone Street, here on behalf of Cafe Malu. Thank you for your time today. Thank you to staff for the recommendations of approval on both of the requests. I'd like to just briefly talk through those two requests. The first one, zoning change from residential to HUB1A, which was an intentional piece of the request we submitted. Because that zoning is intended to address parcels in non-residential use that exist within residential areas that have historically served the neighborhood and are located on a corner. As staff confirms, this parcel fits that description exactly. For almost 100 years, this building that you see in this photo has had commercial uses and originally had commercial zoning. But since at least the 2018 zoning overhaul, it has had the non-conforming residential zoning on it. Removing the non-conforming nature of the building, it's smart planning. It's in line with the master plan, and it also ensures that any future of the building remains limited in scale with the provisions that are already in our CZO. Secondly, the conditional use request, we want to be clear and state on the record, this part of the request is only for the 1,200 square foot restaurant space, not the entirety of the structure. Any expansion of that conditional use to serve as a restaurant in this space would require a conditional use amendment. This full process, the full thing, and I suspect would never be granted here. The space that we're talking about, the 1,200 square feet with only about 30 seats, 20 seats outside, has served as a restaurant for many years. So this would allow it to serve alcohol, but also take away the nonconformity again for that space to stay a standard restaurant. As you just heard, Cafe Malu is a wonderful, very small, neighborhood-oriented restaurant, very limited seating. It does currently serve as a standard restaurant, and so this addition would simply allow alcohol service as complementary to that. As staff noted, the use is consistent with pattern of historic neighborhood serving businesses in the area, and my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Becca Geiger, 800 Barone Street. I'd like to speak about neighborhood engagement and what we've heard throughout this process. There has been a significant amount of outreach on this application. We've worked closely with both ARNA and the Council Member's Office from the very beginning. And as you'll hear today, there is both support and opposition from nearby residents. What has been especially encouraging, though, is how consistent the feedback has been in one respect. People truly love Cafe Malu and what Monty has brought to the neighborhood. It has quickly become a valued neighborhood-serving space, something that reflects exactly the kind of business this area is meant to support. The request before you today is really about allowing that success to continue in a sustainable way. Adding alcohol service enhances the experience for patrons and supports the long-term viability of the business without changing its character. We do understand that some concerns have been raised, particularly around what this approval could mean for a future operator. since the entitlement runs with the land, and that's a fair point. But there are both existing and proposed constraints that ensure the space remains what it is today. First, the existing constraints. The space is very small and cannot expand without a conditional use, as Avery mentioned earlier. Second, we have offered additional physical and operational limitations that would apply to any future operator. There will be no holding bar for guests to sit or stand and have a drink. Alcohol will only be served to seated guests, and no walk-up or to-go alcohol service. Any changes to these conditions would require further review. Together, these measures ensure that the restaurant remains consistent with what the neighborhood already appreciates. It while also supporting a small locally owned business. As you will see in your reports, we have many letters of support, and you will also hear from a few people today. Thank you.
Chris Corman, Jordan DeSoltes, Tom Lowerbury, Alex Catt, Sean Joseph.
Hello, I'm Chris Kornman. I live at 5816 Laurel Street, which is about 3 blocks away. While I don't live in the streets that are directly impacted by Cafe Malou, for over the past 25 years, I've renovated approximately 30 houses in the neighborhood, some of which are just within a few doors from Cafe Malou. I continue to purchase, renovate, and sell houses in the vicinity as well as living there. I frequent Cafe Malou. I know the owner, and my high school son works there on the weekends, along with a number of his friends. For all these reasons, I obviously have a very strong interest in the success of the restaurant. I know there are concerns about the amount of alcohol that might be sold and the potential for negative impacts, such as drunk drivers. I also live near Patois and Clancy's, which both have been a beloved part of our neighborhood for many years. Patois also serves alcohol during brunch, similar to Malou. Clancy's doesn't serve brunch, but my daughter, who's been a hostess there for a number of years, can attest that they probably serve more alcohol from 5 to 7 p.m. than Cafe Malou will serve all month. I'm not aware of a single problem ever occurring at Patois or Clancy's over the past 25 years that I've lived in the neighborhood. We all read frequent stories about how hard it is to keep a restaurant afloat, and we have a restaurant that both supporting and opposition neighbors claim that they love and enjoy. We have an owner who lives in the neighborhood and an owner who gives neighborhood kids a place to work and learn responsibility. I feel like we should do everything we can to make this restaurant successful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Commissioner, fellow commissioners. I just want to preface my letter by saying that any business... Pardon?
Your name and address, please.
Pardon me. Jordan Desatel, 5513 Annunciation Street. Just any business in that building, I firmly believe, will only exist with the support of the neighborhood, and any business being irresponsible, the neighborhood will not support it anymore and thus cease to exist. I'm here to express my full support for Cafe Malou. The neighborhood-scale businesses like Cafe Malou are essential to the character and long-term sustainability of the city of New Orleans. Our city is defined by locally owned cafes, restaurants, and gathering spaces that foster collaboration, connection, walkability, and a strong sense of community. These type of businesses do not detract from neighborhoods, they help define them. Cafe Malou is a great example of that. The owner is constantly present, engaged, and genuinely invested in the neighborhood, not just as a place of business, but as a community. The cafe is thoughtfully operated, well-maintained, and contributes to the local economy. Supporting businesses like this also helps maintain diversity in our local economy. Small, locally owned establishments create opportunities for entrepreneurship, jobs, and cultural expression, all of which are central to what makes New Orleans unique. I understand that concerns are sometimes raised about change, but well-managed neighborhood-serving businesses like Cafe Malou enhance the quality of life rather than disrupt it. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your thoughtful consideration. I cease my comments.
Thank you. Tom Lowenberg, Alex Catt, Sean Johnson. Joseph.
I'm Tom Lowenberg. My address, 513 Octavia Street. I am the owner of Octavia Books, also the owner of the building that we're in. I've been the owner for about 34 years now. I've done nothing but improve this building, which was in bad shape when I got it in 1992. One thing I want to say is this building has always been a commercial a corner commercial building for like 120 years. For a long time, it was Drobe's grocery store. There was also a bar next door called Ace's Elbow. It was later called Broussard's. I can tell you the history of the building with the streetcars. Anyway, it's been integral to the neighborhood, which grew up around it as the main commercial feature. The thing is, with the stability of the building, it sort of slipped through the cracks and it's just been legal non-conforming, but it's been continuously a commercial building for all this time. And I've been before the council a number of times, every time we need to change everything. It is a major problem when I have to get a new tenant to go through the long process. I've lost tenants over the wait, like a half a year in cases, getting that process. I've been at risk when there's a storm of having the building unoccupied for a period of time. So it would mean a lot to the health of the neighborhood and the health of the building to have it settled now as a commercial building, which is what it's always been. I am active member of the neighborhood organization I was a charter member in the beginning. The building we did a historic renovation, done several renovations, but I've just put a lot of resources into improving the entire building. And my recent investment in the property reflects a long-time commitment to the neighborhood and continuing to operate the bookstore and the other businesses there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Alex Katz? And our last speaker in support is Sean Joseph. If there's anyone else here to be in support, please let us know.
Hey, my name is Alex Katz. I'm at 432 Henry Clay Avenue. My wife and I graduated Tulane in 2005, right before Katrina. Neither of us were from here, and we literally spun a globe and said, where in the world do we want to live? And we chose New Orleans based on our time here, spending 4 years in uptown New Orleans. We tried to make a home here. A few months later, Katrina came. We had no roots here. We had no real jobs here. We spun a globe again, and we said, where in the world do we want to live? And we said, let's give New Orleans a shot. Let's see if it comes back. And it's places like this that make New Orleans special. This is where we like to go on the weekends with our kids. We'd love to have the option to have a Bloody Mary. But this is what makes a business viable. I own 5 businesses in New Orleans. It is incredibly tough. You can spend years working on business plans and modeling it out, and what they don't tell you is that you're going to lose a week for a freeze, lose a week for a hurricane, lose a week because there's no running water. And so every bit of margin in a business helps. And so if this is what it takes to keep a good local business with someone who lives in the neighborhood viable, then I could not support it anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, how are you? My name's Sean Josephs. I live at 631 Nashville Avenue. I'm married to Monty Dawes, so if I wasn't here in support, I think I'd have a lot of problems. But I'm actually here to read something in support of some neighbors who couldn't be here. So in addition to all the letters of support that were submitted, the following individuals expressed their support to be acknowledged today. That includes Martin Steib, who lives at 5506 Laurel Street and sees Cafe Malu from his front door. David Smith, who lives 1 block away on Joseph Street with his family. And Richard Wilkoff, who lives around the corner and attended the neighborhood meeting. While each of their letters speaks to different perspectives, which you can read in your reports, there are a few consistent themes. First, Cafe Malu is widely viewed as a positive and valued addition to the neighborhood, something that enhances daily life and reflects the kind of small, walkable, community-oriented business that defines this area. Second, there's a strong belief that allowing alcohol service would simply complement the existing use and help support its long-term success, particularly given the small size and economic realities of operating a restaurant. And third, while concerns have been raised, these neighbors express confidence that, given the scale of the space and the limitations proposed, this request is unlikely to create meaningful impacts related to parking, safety, or neighborhood character. In short, these are nearby residents, including those with direct proximity to the site, who support this request because of what Cafe Malu already is today and what they believe it can continue to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy Adams?
I'm Peggy Adams. I live at 537 Joseph Street, just up 2 blocks from the restaurant. I'm here because I served on the advisory committee for the master plan after Katrina. And I remember distinctly that the desire was to find commercial properties on corners and not include them in the residential zoning. And I frankly just do not understand how this slipped through the cracks. It's kind of a perfect fit. The zoning requested says it's intended for individual parcels or small clusters of parcels in residential areas that have historically served the neighborhood, such as corner stores. So it's just the absolute perfect fit for this corner. It just shouldn't be residential. I would hate to see us have another Katrina and it lose the ability to continue as a commercial property. So I really hope that the staff's recommendation will carry the day. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to start our master plan amendments this year, so we'd love to be able to have your support in those public hearings and those meetings. We are going to move to the opposition now. I don't have any other cards in support. I'm going to read a couple names so that you all are aware that you're speaking in this order. Taylor Galen, Mary Lynn Feldmeyer, David Fant. And remember to state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
I'm Taylor Gallion. I live at 415 Octavia Street, and we also own the Double Shotgun. It's right next door to Cafe Malou. We really like having Octavia Books and Cafe Malou in our neighborhood and want to see both succeed. We are here asking for a delayed vote until a good neighbor agreement is in place. In the 22 years we've lived in the neighborhood, we've seen 5 businesses at the Cafe Malou location. Therefore, it is vital that we not just plan for the businesses today, but for the success of the neighborhood in the future. With the future in mind, we are in opposition of the zoning change designation to a standard restaurant, as well as allowing alcohol sales, unless provisos are in place to protect the neighbors. While the City Planning Commission staff report included 2 general provisos, no specific provisos to protect the neighbors were included in the recommendations. ARNA, our neighborhood association, has put together a thoughtful letter outlining specific provisos that would help to protect the neighbor character and quality of life. Limits for standard restaurant, restricted hours, limits for alcohol sales, parking accommodations. These provisos are very important, as without them a standard restaurant could have guest activity until 10 p.m. with staff cleanup allowed until midnight on weekdays, and guests as late as midnight with staff cleanup as late as 2 a.m. on weekends. We find these hours to be unacceptable, as this would allow business noise as well as a scarcity of parking late in the evening. The driveway between Cafe Malou and our property, directly next door, is used for service and has been used for outdoor dining in the past. This would be disruptive to our tenants, especially if allowed to extend into the night. Without addressing these issues, the proposed changes to zoning will make our property less attractive as a rental and ultimately decrease our property value. We ask for your help to facilitate a solution that works for all parties. Please postpone the vote on these changes until provisos and a good neighbor agreement are in place. Thank you.
I have a question for you, sir. Was that, just because we can't pull it up, was that a document from the Neighborhood Association submitted to the applicant?
It was in the...
It was in the packet?
It's page 53,
okay.
I think, in the document.
We have the document.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Marilyn, Miss Marilyn Feldmeyer.
Marilyn Feldmeyer, also 415 Octavia, and also partial owner of the building directly adjacent to Cafe Malou. Again, we really support both Tom and Monty in their endeavors, and we want them to be successful. So while we're not entirely against the rezoning, we want to, and the certainly desires of them, we are looking for very clear safeguards against non-compatible uses, both for now and in the future. Permitted uses that fit the description of things we're concerned about when I looked at the zoning is it could be an animal hospital, catering kitchen, a grocery store, a medical dental clinic, a pet daycare. Those are really loud. Obviously a specialty standard restaurant, a large or small daycare, a social club or a lodge. It's not that these are terrible things, but they would all need provisions to be appropriate directly next door to people who, you know, are sleeping and want to be able to park somewhere close to their home after, you know, in the afternoons. The 3 o'clock has worked great, and that is exactly what every restaurant that's been there has had since we moved in 22 years ago. I see no reason to extend those hours. And when we talk about historically it was a bar and stuff, that was like 40 years ago when this was a working class neighborhood directly adjacent to the port. It is not what the neighborhood is today. It hasn't been a bar. It hasn't had a grocery for 50 years. So I think we just need to be realistic about what we're asking for. And in this, you know, if you come home for work and there's 20 more cars trying to park here, it's really tough. And I'm the first to say I want small business here, but I think it needs to be compatible with the neighborhood we are. And the neighbors who have the parking thing are basically from Constance to Laurel Street on Octavia Street are really struggling, and you don't want them to put more curb cuts in. You don't want to pave over all those areas. You don't want to take out trees so they can have a private parking spot. And then the people on Laurel Street, those are the two that get impacted. Thank you very much, and I ask you to delay until we get a good neighbor agreement.
Thank you. Donald Fant, Celeste Marshall, Lenora Phillips.
Good afternoon, everyone. Donald Fant, 401 Henry Clay Avenue. I'm here on behalf of ARNA, the Audubon Riverside Neighborhood Association. This site is embedded in a historic residential neighborhood with limited parking and narrow streets. It is a neighborhood already under strain from conditions it is unsuited to accommodate. Left unchecked, the proposed changes will only exacerbate these conditions. Thus, ARNA opposes the upzoning and conditional use being requested without significant guardrails being established to protect adjacent property owners. While we appreciate the good work of CDC staff, we do not believe their recommended provisos achieve this. Our March 16th letter included page 55 of your staff report, details minimum provisions we feel are needed. For the restaurant, these include restricting hours of operation to breakfast and lunchtime, limiting alcohol to table service only, and prohibiting employee parking within the immediate area. We would also look to ensure that future uses of the balance of the building be limited to those which currently exist and prohibit any expansion of the restaurant beyond its current footprint. Lacking such proactive measures, we believe the requested changes could negatively impact neighbors to the benefit of commercial interests. We appreciate the role of these local businesses play in our community. However, we ask the Commission to ensure that any advancement of their requests includes appropriate safeguards to respect and protect nearby residents. Thank you for your service and for your consideration.
Thank you. Celeste Marshall.
Celeste Marshall, 547 Octavia. I'm speaking in opposition to the total rezoning, but also asking for a deferment on a vote. The committee's recommendation states that it wouldn't have additional impacts on parking. And as a resident who lives on that block, and many people that are here to tell you, I'm telling you it already is. It's a huge problem. And the night of the meeting at Cafe Melu, 2 of our neighbors were unable to attend because they came home with a car full of kids and no place to park because there was a book talk at the same time. I'm speaking also on behalf of Rob and Kit Stum, Mary and Mark Nigel, the Devlin family, Joe Papalardo, and Caroline Graham, who are unable to attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Lenora Phillips. And then after that, Liv Kelly Newman, Julia Travick, Charles Jeffrey Pounds.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Leonora Phillips. I'm the owner of 543 and 545 Octavia Street. I have tenants with toddlers and I have retirees. I don't know about y'all, but I don't plan on being the first immortal. And the only thing that really is immortal with additions and changes are the land use plan and the zoning ordinances that have been put in place. And they specifically do not allow for this in our neighborhood. It asks for it to be something that the neighborhood will support. The bookstore at 7,500 square feet is over half the size of the average Barnes & Nobles that are being opened around the country. They have embraced a smaller neighborhood format, and they are moving into second-generation retail stores. Our concern is the future with this building. No one here dislikes Cafe Malou or Octavia bookstores or wants to see it fail. What we are concerned about is the future of this building and how the future land use should be done to preserve the character and the scale of our neighborhood. I'm asking that you deny the zoning change and deny the alcohol license. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Liv Newman, and I have to start by saying I'm super nervous. 527 Octavia Street. I'm super nervous here. I've never had to do this. Unfortunately, I had to take today off from work to be here, and I'm deeply saddened to see so many of my neighbors standing in opposition to each other over a bookstore and cafe that we all agree is fantastic. In addition, I'm disappointed that my comments, both spoken and written, from the community meeting did not appear in the Sherman Strategies list of community comments. I'm also very disappointed that of all of the comments made, it's been focused, and support has been focusing on the success of Cafe Malou. All of us want success. What many of us don't want, including myself and my spouse, is a permanent rezoning of our neighborhood, of this building, 10,000 square feet in total, from two-family residential district to an urban neighborhood business district. It's a really significant change, also that Cafe Malou can sell liquor. There are, on my street, so I am Octavia Street, right around the corner from the cafe and on the same street as the entrance to the bookstore, 12 children. And I noticed that the preliminary recommendation has been to approve this rezoning because, for among many reasons, there's no parks or schools nearby. While our street is not a park, with 12 children, one of whom is autistic and is out blowing bubbles every afternoon, and two more who are elementary aged and riding their bikes up and down the street and sidewalks, it definitely has that feeling. Tom, you know that we support the bookstore. This is my daughter, who was at the bookstore 20 years ago for the launch of the 7th Harry Potter. She has since spent many Sundays volunteering there, and we have supported the bookstore. I heard the beeping.
Unless a commissioner asks you to continue.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We support the bookstore wholeheartedly. Mia offered to buy it from you this morning when I was talking to her on the phone. And Monty, I love the cafe. I'm so happy it's there. But I can't get my friends to visit because you don't serve lattes or cafe.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, Julia Trevek, and then Charles Jeffrey Pounds. And those are all the cards I have to speak, so if you're here to talk and we don't have a card, you'll have to bring it up. All right, please state your name and address.
I am Julia Trawick. I live at 539 Octavia Street, 6 houses down from the bookstore on the same side of Octavia Street. I have lived there for 27 years. I do love Cafe Malou as it stands right now. It is just darling and a wonderful addition to our neighborhood. I'm surprised that they were seeking a liquor license, and the fact that Scrambled before them sought a liquor license and was denied for the reasons that some of my neighbors have stated before me. Our concern is that rezoning will not bode well for the future of our family neighborhood. We have small children riding bikes and playing in the street, and as has been stated here, we have this large bookstore, and while I do like having it there and have been supportive of it, I wonder just how long brick and mortar bookstores have a future in the direction our world is taking now, where everybody just goes on Amazon and orders a book. So my fear is that once Tom and Judith, who are seniors, probably younger than I am, once they retire, or, you know, then the next proprietor, what if they want to make it into a big restaurant bar area, and there has already been approval for a liquor license adjacent, and actually the same building, because they open into one another? What leg would the city have to stand on in refusing that? And then if we had this big 10,000 square foot restaurant and bar in this precious little family neighborhood with narrow streets, very little off-street parking, how would that affect the quality of life for my neighbors and I?
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Charles Pounds at 5265 Laurel Street. I think everybody said kind of what needed to be said, but I just wanted to point out that I just Googled this. 60% of restaurants will fail the first year. If these folks get a liquor license for this, there's not really any kind of guarantee that it's going to stay with them. We've got no parking, the trash situation, the fact that she's telling her employees are going to have to park 3 blocks away. There's absolutely no way that's going to be enforced. You know, no employee's going to do what they want to. They're not going to be patrolling 3 blocks. These kind of promises aren't going to happen. She's going to have to move up to dumpsters from having small trash cans when they go to a 10,000 square foot restaurant. If they've got upstairs rooms, they're going to have banquet halls. They're going to have wedding parties and things like that. That's not going to be people that are just walking over from the neighborhood. The people that want to come here to a new restaurant in a cute neighborhood don't live here. They want to come in, and that's great to push it like that, but it's going to destroy our neighborhood and the people that want to live there. The people that live there have to take care of it, pick up their neighborhood trash, keep up their yards and stuff like that. When we lose those people, it's not going to be a nice place. I think everybody said I wanted to say, but I'm not for it, because there's no telling this could turn into the next Grits bar or something like that. Once they've got a liquor license, they don't have to keep it anything else. And I'm curious if when they expanded the bookstore, they had plans all along to turn it into a 10,000 square foot restaurant. And this was just kind of a covert way to get it in there. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. We can move to the rebuttal.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm trying to cover everything that I just wrote down quickly. On provisos, before we even requested an NPP address list, we started talking about provisos and the possibility that some of those might be appropriate here because, again, as everyone's been saying, they love Cafe Malou, love what it's doing, love how it fits in the neighborhood, but the what-ifs of any future tenants in that 1,200 square foot space. We have a working list of provisos. We've met with Councilmember McCarran and her land use director several times. She is actually convening her own meeting with the neighbors the first week of April, so well before we go to council. Does not want us there, let's be clear. She wants to go have a direct meeting with these neighbors and really try to hone out her own. Arna sent a list, as you saw the letter. They've sent that into Councilmember's office. And so we tried to touch on these in our speaking notes, but I just want to make it clear that a list of provisos is something that, as business owners, they are more than happy and know that we will incorporate into this request at the council level. A few other points of information. The 5,000 square foot limitation on commercial uses in Article 12. I know you all are very familiar. Octavia Books is over 5,000 square feet, so any future life of that would have to go through a conditional use process. So somebody couldn't turn around and open a pet daycare in that space without going through another review process that would involve all these same steps we're going through. Could never be a bar, even if we wanted it to. No intent, could never do it, not in the zoning. Couldn't expand to the larger space. Can expand beyond that. Again, 1,200 square feet, not 12,000. 1,200 square feet, smaller than most of our homes. 1,200 square feet is the existing conditional use, or the existing space for which the conditional use is being requested. One other quick note on Scrambled. They were not denied anything. They did do an MPP. I don't see that they ever filed an application, so I don't think that one actually went very far. I'm, again, trying to cover a lot, but if there are any other questions for us, we are here to answer them. And thank you again for your time today.
I do have a question. Are there any of the provisos in the letter from the neighborhood that the owner operator is not willing to do?
Yeah, I think ours is the main one. The other ones are almost virtually copy and paste into what we can work with, but I think that that warrants a deeper conversation with the council member and the neighbors to get to somewhere we're comfortable with. I can speak for Monty in saying that she does not want people outside at the outdoor seating for dinner service, and so any future dinner service would be indoors, so again, 30 seats with the indoor space, high end, and definitely not until midnight.
And so the current hours are from until 3 o'clock?
Yes.
And the dinner service, just for people here, it would be what?
No direct plan for dinner service right now, but as a small business, I'm sure you can understand, doesn't want to totally give that up in case future market conditions require that. But again, neighborhood appropriate hours.
Commissioners, do you have questions?
How does the conditional use affect outdoor dinner space? I'm asking staff.
Yeah, the conditional use is only for the interior space, so that would be limited to that 1,200 square foot, I believe.
May I add a piece of information? There is a sidewalk permit existing for the outdoor seating, so that is already permitted.
But I'm talking more about alcohol being served outside. As we know in New Orleans, you can have alcohol outside on the streets. So is there some sort of,
So the street is different than the parking that you were talking about. The parking that's located on the side of the building.
No, I'm talking about dining. Like, can alcohol be served outside on the sidewalk in a dining situation?
My understanding is that the use on the sidewalk takes on the permissions of the indoors. So if they're serving alcohol with meals inside, they can serve alcohol with meals on the sidewalk.
That is what I assumed. So, even though it's an intention not to serve, I think it's going to happen regardless.
And is the idea for you to have a good neighbor agreement in place prior to city council?
I think we're certainly open to that. I mean, provisos are through the city, which always feels like the appropriate mechanism to us for enforcement purposes, and to have it clear and in the public record. A good neighbor agreement with, I guess it would be with ARNA, but we're certainly open to that if that is desirable over provisos.
I think the point is just to allow the public to understand that there is a difference between a proviso and a good neighbor agreement, and there are legalities there that we don't have any oversight of as it refers to a good neighbor agreement, but provisos there are. So just to keep the public clear that those sort of, there's only so much that the city can do in terms of an administration to enforce those items.
So that they would have to have a good neighbor agreement as a part of before they go to council?
We've generally refrained from doing that. And the reason is, I think exactly what Commissioner Flick said, is that the city can enforce the regulations of the zoning ordinance, and we can enforce provisos. But good neighbor agreements are private agreements between the applicant and whatever organization that agreement is with. And so it would have to be enforced by them.
Is there any proviso that can be added for parking, to alleviate parking situation for the neighbors, where there can be designated parking spots that are only for the neighbors who live there, but, like they do in certain areas of the city?
I think just like Bob said, since the CZO does not require any off-street parking for this zoning district or this use, that would probably not be recommended. There are, excuse me, there are other provisos though that are in the use standards for restaurant here that you would be able to modify if that was something you wanted to go with, such as the hours of operations or the holding bar restriction.
Yeah, that was something I was going to ask, if that's something that the
So
client
those
was
are in the-
open-minded to.
Yeah, those are listed in the use standards. So in the past, it has been done, changing hours of operations and such.
Yeah, I think in a neighborhood situation, if, turning down, like shutting the bar down and also having lights out at a certain time, helps the neighbors, especially with noise, especially the immediate neighbors with noise. So if there's any way or any leeway in working with those hours, I know they do restrict restaurants. I understand that this is New Orleans, so it does restrict restaurants, but if there's some leeway in you working with the neighbors with the hours of operation,
Yeah,
that would be.
We are certainly committed to that. I've just gave them a list of the provisos where we are right now. Again, I think the council member wants to convene a meeting and be very involved in this one. And we're going to be at the table for all the way through. I just wanted to point out on the parking specifically, we touched on this, but there's a 15-minute loadings or pickup zone in front of the building. It was put in by Tom for the jiu-jitsu that was there at some point. We've committed to helping them remove that, so that at least adds a few spaces there that aren't 15-minute time periods. And Monty is very committed to, again, having the employees park not in a 3-block radius. It's a very small restaurant, not a ton of employees to have to enforce that with, so.
What is the parking situation right now, even before this conditional use?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Tom speak to the parking that is on site.
We have unlike a lot of buildings, we have a parking lot that holds 3 or possibly 4 cars. We're on a corner, so we've got a pretty good stretch along Octavia Street, which is the length of the building, plus the part of the building on Laurel Street that is available for parking. The reason we put the 15-minute parking there originally, that we requested it, was so that parents picking up their kids from the Hayashi Sports Clinic could stop there, so that rather than in front of the neighbors' houses across the street. So we tried to, that seemed to be the best solution at the time. But if it doesn't seem right now, certainly willing to move it. I mean, it's a convenience for people coming in the bookstore to be able to stop and not have to park for very long and take up a parking spot somewhere else. So it's got pluses and minuses, but I'm certainly willing to make adjustments if that will help. And we are also, the bookstore does, we get, most of our customers are in there for a period of time browsing, but not necessarily for that long. But we do events in the evening, such as this evening. There's an event at the store at 6 o'clock, and they usually last about an hour and a half. And people always seem to find a place to park. If you go over to Jefferson Avenue, there's the Lawn and Clint Tennis Club there. So there's like a whole, and Poidra's home, but there's a whole long stretch of block there that is, has no residential on that side of the street. So there's, within not that far away, there is parking that's not blocking anybody's house. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I just want the staff to clarify. Some of the opponents were under the impression that the entire building would be subject to conditional use and alcohol use. I just want to make sure that, and you clarify, I want the staff to clarify.
So yeah, 2 things. So this conditional use is only for the 1,200 square feet space. So anything beyond that would constitute an expansion of a previously approved conditional use, which would have to come back to the same process, planning commission, city council hearing. In addition to that, the underlying zoning district that is requested, HUB 1A, has a 5,000 square feet limitation for commercial uses. So anything above that would need to be subject to a conditional use as well.
So, for the applicant, let's go ahead and close the public portion, and commissioners, you can additionally ask staff questions, or we can get a motion. I guess I'd want to know, when is the deadline for this item? Since there was some question about a deferment.
March 17th? No, I'm sorry, wrong line, May 23rd.
May 23rd. Okay, thank you. May 23rd.
I would like to make a motion to defer this matter until May 23rd, just because it would allow for the neighbors to talk to the owners and come up with a good neighbor agreement, especially with the hours of operation. Seems like they are on the path to that. And if it works for both parties.
I could be behind deferment, but first we would need to know, one, if the applicant is open to deferment, and then two, what that date is, so that way we're not pushing it directly to deadline. So Chair, I don't know if you want to open that up to the applicant specifically.
I mean, I think we're open to it. The May 23rd feels a very long time away.
It does.
And I don't know that we need till May 23rd to work through some provisos. I mean, I just handed Arna our list that we're working on, and I would hope that we can get to an agreement by then. And again, working with the council member, I mean, traditionally, I've always hammered out provisos at the council level. So I, respect the commission's desire to have it solidified at this level. It's just a very in-depth conversation, and the con of CPC is that we can't discuss these things with you all and, kind of come to a solution like we can. We can all go sit in District A's council office and have almost a mediation of sorts. And that traditionally has been the way that we have found works best to get to a middle ground with everyone involved. And so I'm not trying to put off a deferral. We're open to whatever you all, decide is appropriate. I don't know that we need till May.
When is the meeting with council member in the neighborhood?
Sorry, what's that?
When is the meeting with the council member in the neighborhood?
Yeah, we were told first week in April it will be convened. Yeah.
Okay, so
Please keep your
And that
comments.
notice will go to everybody on
So that would be for April 14th or April 28th if there was a vote for deferment. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, but, go ahead.
Commissioner Flick?
What date seems reasonable in terms of getting any comments back from the applicant?
April 28th, a 30-day deferral.
Okay.
If the 14th is not enough.
Okay.
If there's no changes to the staff report, the 14th is okay for us, but I don't know if it leaves enough time to the applicant and the neighbors.
Okay.
Commissioner Joshi Gupta, would you make the motion? Would you make a motion for deferral to April 28th?
I think we should ask the applicant if they're available, if they're able to do it for April 14th, after meeting.
Well, Commissioner Joshi Gupta, what staff just named was that if there are any major changes, then those updates will need to be processed through staff. So I went with the 28th.
I think, we can move for deferral to April 28th.
So as the applicant, are you?
Yeah, I mean, I would almost feel more comfortable if someone from the other side were able to opine on this, because I'm not sure that they would ever get to a place where they feel like they're closer to comfortable with this. I mean, I would hope so. I think we are making progress, but I almost just don't want to be the only one speaking on this. I mean, whoever, April 14th, 28th, sure. We're here. We'll be here.
So
My recommendation would be April 14th because they'll have a meeting with the council in the beginning of April. And it seems like the provisos and the good neighbor agreement is the biggest concern here.
I agree. I think,
Commissioner Flick has a question.
Sorry. Given that timeline, if they do have edits to the provisos, is there enough time for you to receive those edits and then it be published in time? There's, a whole process in terms of...
So we have to publish our reports 1 week before the Planning Commission hearing. In the event that any changes to the proviso were to come after that, you could always, as a commission, decide to change the provisos that are recommended by staff in the report.
So I think the April 14th date is sufficient.
I think given that it's a business and you want answers and work with neighbors, and looks like you are willing to work with neighbors and you are there, I think April 14th is a quick and easy and, deferral date where you can come up with a solution with your neighbors. So I move for deferral.
And I'll second the deferral to April 14th.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? If there's not, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Boucher, did you have something to say?
Can I address the public?
No.
It's just
No,
us. Okay.
it's just us. We've already closed that portion, and so you can either vote yay or nay.
Yep.
I can start over here, Commissioner Jordan.
Yay.
Okay. Commissioner Witcher, yay. Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Josie Gupta?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Commissioner O'Shea?
Yes.
All right, so the motion carries.
Oh, your vote.
I voted.
Oh, I guess it's just not up there.
Yeah, I voted yes.
Thank you.
The motion carries. I know this means that the public and the neighbors have to come here potentially again and taking off of work. In the spirit of this, we are hoping that a good neighbor agreement is reached and that there are some recommendations that come back to us as a proviso. This is an important piece of property, and we just want to be able to try to vet it as much as possible. So thank you for coming today. All right, let's move on to zoning docket 031-26.
Yes. Zoning docket 031-26 is a request for conditional use to permit a commercial short-term rental for the property at 424 through 428 3rd Street, located within an HUMU urban neighborhood mixed-use district, the transient lodging interim district. The subject property is a single-story, 4-bedroom residential dwelling, while commercial short-term rentals are otherwise permitted by right in the HUMU district. The City Council Motion M25530 reclassifies all transient lodging uses as conditional uses requiring review by the City Planning Commission. The proposed use will operate within the existing structure, involve no new construction, and utilize on-street parking to meet the parking requirements. The use is consistent with the intent of the master plan and the HUMU district. It complies with the applicable use standards and is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The proposal is not anticipated to adversely impact long-term housing availability, public health, safety, or welfare, and is located within close proximity to public transit. Therefore, staff recommends approval of zoning docket 031-26, subject to 2 provisos.
Great, thank you. I have 2 cards or 2 applicants on this property, Jay McMillan and Joseph Babington. Please remember to state your name and address.
Hello, Commissioners. I am Jay McClellan. I'm at 25 Audubon Boulevard. I just wanted to speak in favor of this project. My wife and son-in-law and our daughter are the sole owners of this property. And together we also run about another 4 or 5 commercial STRs here in New Orleans. This property is uniquely suited to be a CSTR because if you look at it here, that's a commercial establishment faced on Tchoupitoulas, a lot, and then there's a duplex next door to ours. Across the street is the chop yard. So there's no issue with parking. There's very little issue with us disturbing the neighbors. And it's a house that we lovingly renovated. We purchased and renovated right before the IZD came in. So this was a permitted use under HUMU. Then the IZD came in and delayed things, and here we stand before you hoping that we can get an interim or a conditional use for this property. I want to state that we, in running these Airbnbs, are good at it. We've done it now for about 5 years. We make sure that there's no trash out there. We all live in the neighborhood. We're 4th and 5th generation New Orleanians, so we care about the property, we care about the neighborhood, and we make sure that our guests respect our use terms and don't create too much noise, don't create too much hassle. But there really won't be any issue for parking here. We've renovated the house completely. It needed everything, including structural work. So we're proud to say that it's a very, now an attractive home in the residence in the neighborhood, whereas before it was showing signs of falling apart. So thank you very much for your consideration. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Babington. I live at 922 Toledano Street. I'm one of the owner applicants and live in the Irish Channel. The quality of the neighborhood is very important to us. We looked very hard for a property that would not be a disturbance to the surrounding neighborhood. And the position of this property next to the chop yard and industrial uses really fits the bill. It is further supported by the staff recommendation for approval. We acquired the property in September of 2022 before any IZDs against commercial short-term rentals were in place. And it was always our intention to operate a commercial short-term rental. Unfortunately, the rules were changed on us without giving us advance notice to properly solidify our plans. It's always been our intentions to legally operate by the book, but it's impossible when the goalposts keep moving. We have been through a long road, including significant renovations, bringing a historic building back to the commerce, and intend to make additional improvements to deter any disturbance from the short-term rental and improve the neighborhood. These include period fencing fronting the street, security cameras, and noise monitoring devices. We have even scaled back the operation of the commercial short-term rental to 4 bedrooms to be more in line with other residents in the neighborhood and prevent the property from being a nuisance. We have already invested significant capital, having our plans being held in limbo for over 2.5 years so far. We have even tried to sell the property to basically break even and have not had any success, with most interested parties complaining about the negative externalities of a resident living next to the chop yard. Let's face it, a lot of residents would not want to live next to such a large bar, and it's much better suited for a transient population. We look forward to bringing this to a close and hope to be responsible owner-operators. Thank you.
I have a question. What was the zoning when you bought it?
It was HUMU.
HUMU. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I don't have any other cards in support, but I have 2 cards in opposition. Lisa Schlutz and Frank Southall.
Lisa Stutz. I live on 518 2nd Street. And, quite frankly, we have been plagued by short CSTRs in this neighborhood. We have 3, 529 on 3rd Street, 530 2nd Street, 2515 Rousseau. And by the way, we live by the chop yard. We love it. We only hear anything when somebody scores on a Saturday for LSU. But we have had horrific the past 3 years with our short-term rentals. You can talk to Celeste in permits. I've been in so many adjudications, it is unreal. We have just been able to revoke the CSTR on 530. We just don't understand why we would want any more of these in our neighborhood. I'm exhausted with it. I know my neighbor owns the rental next door, and he's heavily invested in this area as well to keep housing accessible. He has 3 of the properties around there that he's renting, and that directly affects him. We just don't need hotels in our neighborhood. I don't care if they're local. I don't care what they say. When people are drunk and they're partying, whether it's 8 or 10, they are loud. They're going to keep the neighbors directly next door up. We deal with it every day, every single day. This weekend, we spent all of our time videoing, taking pictures over occupancy. It's absolutely ruined our quality of life to the point where I do nothing but look to move at this point. because it is that much of a frustration, because that one of the properties abuts my backyard. So we would just ask that you let us be residential and continue to be residential and not keep putting us in the position to police these rentals. It's exhausting, quite frankly. And it is a long process and expensive. My neighbors have spent over $10,000 in legal fees. And I just think it's truly unfortunate. So we would request you deny this.
Ma'am, I have a question. The other addresses that you mentioned, were those commercially zoned properties or are those residential properties that are maybe operating illegally?
No, they have an overlay. When all of our properties were built, there's about 12 of them. The city failed to rezone them as residential. We had to apply for that. 2 of them had overlays. 1 has been revoked. 2515 was given a special use permit when they renovated it, and they have a pool, which I can honestly say, if you have a pool in a commercial in a commercial rental, you are going to have problems. I have 40 people out there screaming. I've changed my windows. All of us have spent money doing this. I just don't think it's fair to the residents.
Okay, thank you. And then Emily Lax? Oh, no, Frank, Mr. Southall, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. White Frank Southall, Organizing Communication Manager at Jane Place Neighborhood Sustainability Initiative. We're here to speak out against sort of the rubber stamping of these CSTRs. As Lisa mentioned, for a few years, residents in this area have fought against 2 CSTRs. And initially, I thought that they were just bad actors. But the more we've gone down this CSTR rabbit hole, as you all may know, we primarily focus on residential CSTRs. I found that they're even worse than STRs. In the very nature of transient lodging, it's not a good fit for residential areas. Even though this is an MU area, it's a shotgun. It's located right where these residents live at. And for my own sanity, personally, I don't want to have to get like 300 emails. They're all righteous and are all due to the things these folks have recorded. I mean, the most outrageous of behavior I've seen from videos, from emails that have gone to Celeste and other folks working in safety and permits. But one of the things about this piece is that it's basically surrounded, when you go on property.nola.gov, it's surrounded by residential usage. And so I don't think it's a smart idea to have transient lodging abutted very close to residential areas where there's kids, where there's families, because it creates these conflicts that Lisa mentioned, where people want to have a party. When I'm on vacation, I love to party, right? But these uses are more appropriate in places like CBD or existing hotels in the quarter. So for this, Jane Place is against granting this conditional use piece. And we'll probably be speaking out against 95% most of the ones coming before you. And to our city figures something out better. Thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Emily, is it Larks?
Walsh, sorry. Hi, my name is Emily Walsh, currently a resident of 4222 Ferret Street in Milan, formerly a resident of 814 Phillip Street in the Irish Channel. Until my HVAC system broke and my slumlord landlord refused to fix it, I stayed in my hot apartment for months, sweating and searching for another apartment in the Irish Channel that I could afford, and there were none. I did not want to leave. My entire community was in the Irish Channel. My vet, my doctor, my dentist, they were all in walking distance from my house. I went to the dog park every day. I knew all my neighbors. I absolutely loved living in the Irish Channel, and I never wanted to leave. I was priced out. I urge you to reject this application and any others that will allow more short-term rentals in our city. We need to prioritize our residents and affordable housing. And they've just shared how many short-term rentals they already have. I think they're doing just fine. They're sitting back there and they're laughing and grinning at the neighbors' very serious and very legitimate concerns. It should be a long-term rental. They should make it a long-term rental or sell it to someone who will make it their home. I disagree that nobody wants to live by a bar. I lived by a bar once and I loved it.
I could walk right over. I never had to worry about drunk driving or, paying for Ubers or anything like that. So I don't think that that's a very serious, thing. Someone will want to live there. Thank you.
I don't have any other cards to speak on this matter, so, any? Oh, yes, rebuttal.
I guess I agree with, just your sentiment that the 500 block probably shouldn't have commercial short-term rentals. It was previously a bakery, if I'm not mistaken, and they kind of got all grandfathered in when it was demolished, and they built a bunch of houses, and they're all kind of on top of each other. The block in question, the 400 block, a third, is much different. I mean, there's only one other residential structure, which is not even inhabitable right now. It's, no one even lives there. And the block is right across the street from the shop yard. I'm glad you don't hear any, noise on the 500 block, but the 400 block, it is a lot louder. I just think the block in question is much more suitable for this operation. We respect all our neighbors too, and we're not laughing at y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners, for the applicant or for staff? Okay, so we're going to close the public portion right now. This is a tough one because the zoning was commercial before, and a lot of the ones that have come through us had residential zoning. So this is a difficult docket item in that regard. I don't know if we've
Is that
seen
the only
this
reason
yet.
it was approved, because it was previously commercial?
For different reason, we also felt that the actual land use on the block, contrary to other short-term rentals that we have seen that were also in commercial zoning, but in a more residentially surrounded area, we didn't necessarily felt like it was justified to be short-term rental in this case. Not only it is in a zoning district that is commercial, it's also located on this last block before Chapitula Street, and there are, except that other residential structure that is adjacent to the site, only warehouses on that block. So that was a main factor in our recommendation.
Thank you. I know we had a similar docket item last time that had warehouses across the street, but I think it was residential zoning on the block, and it was also one in the middle of the block, but it wasn't previously zoned commercial. And I think that's the interesting caveat here. Commissioners, question? Commissioner Cupper? Boucher? No. You all want to make a motion? Staff recommendation is approval, 2 provisos. Are there any, on One Stop Shop, are there any violations or any enforcement items that were pulled up?
No, not for this address.
Okay.
Okay, I have something to say. I actually live in this neighborhood myself. I'm a neighbor with Ms. Stutz, who was expressing the challenges with short-term rentals in the area. And I think that experience is actually informing how I might proceed with this matter. In the development on 2nd and 3rd Street that had 2 commercial short-term rentals, they were exceptional in the rezoning of that block, and they were retained as mixed use. despite all the other houses adjacent to them being rezoned into a residential area. And those two houses did, in fact, wreak havoc on the neighborhood. So much so that, as noted, one permit was revoked and the other one is going to be litigated soon. Despite the fact that this particular property is zoned commercially at the moment, I do think that this is a neighborhood that continues to transform into a residential area. And there's a vacant lot next to it, a residence on the other side, and several neighbors in adjacent blocks. I understand that the current zoning would permit for a commercial short-term rental. I don't myself think that the zoning is necessarily appropriate for this particular parcel. In addition, with where we stand right now in terms of our interim zoning ordinance and the city council determining how to move forward with regulation of short-term rentals altogether, I don't feel comfortable with considering those two factors to support an approval of this motion.
So is that a motion are you?
I make a motion to deny
Staff's recommendation.
staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. So we have a motion to deny. There's a first and a second. Any conversation? If not, we'll vote.
I generally feel that while the city is going through this discussion about short-term rentals and the adverse effects of short-term rentals on a city, I generally don't feel comfortable saying yes to short-term rentals. And I feel like it's giving preferential treatment to some people before it has been completely and decided.
I have a question for staff. Does the bearing of the staff recommendation, or how would that change, if any, given the transient lodging study that was completed recently for commercial short-term rentals?
So I think the study as approved by the commission, I believe would have approved location because the recommendation included a 1 per square, and this would be the only one on the square. I think the type here, because I believe it's a whole home, it would have fallen under the definition of a large, which would not have been permitted. But a small would have, and a small, I think, is defined was half of a double or a unit in a multifamily. So I think there would have been an approvable. Something could have been approved there, but a whole home would not have been approvable.
Thank you.
And one more question for staff, just if you could speak to, if this were to pass, could you speak to the land use entitlements that would follow if we had approved this item?
Sure. This would be a permanent entitlement. The transient lodging study recommended that commercial short-term rentals be temporary uses. So that would be the distinction as well.
Thank you.
We'll call the vote. Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Commissioner Josie Gupta?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Wittries, no, because of the zoning. That's going to be my reasoning. And Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Okay. motion still carries. So there is a motion of denial. And you'll have an opportunity to go to council whenever that date is. All right, let's move on to zoning docket 032-26.
Zoning docket 3226 is a request for a zoning change from an MU1 medium intensity mixed use district and an SRD suburban two-family residential district to an OSR regional open space district, as well as a conditional use to permit a stadium. The site is part of the existing parking lot at George Washington Carver High School. The proposal will be located on the lot with an area of 27.9 acres. The proposed stadium will include 3,700 seats, as well as a turf, bleachers, and 4 additional buildings, totaling 105,418 square feet. The proposed stadium is compatible with a mixed-use residential, commercial, and industrial nature of the surrounding area. The request is consistent with the master plan and will return an underutilized site to commerce and provide a space for local high schools to play competitive sports. Any potential negative impacts can be mitigated through proper management and the implementation of staff recommended provisos. Therefore, staff recommends approval, subject to 4 provisos.
Hello, are you Ms. Lewis?
Yes, I am.
All right, please state your name and address.
Good afternoon. I'm Kylie Lewis at 824 Barone Street. I'm the project manager of the architectural team working on this project. And initially, this area of the site was going to be an accessory to the existing Carver High School. However, that would limit the use of other schools, and so we want to encourage other schools to use this facility as it has been lacking in this area of New Orleans. And so we are proposing to change the re-subdivided lot of Y2, which is pretty much in the middle of the site on the western side, where the stadium and the buildings with this accessory uses as well as parking would be used for football games, soccer games, and to be used citywide. And so by having the approval granted for the zoning change from the medium intensity mixed use district / suburban two-family residential district to a regional open space district, and allowing the conditional use as a stadium, it will be able to move forward with constructing the stadium for the city and for its student athletes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John Williams? And those are the only cards I have.
Yeah. 824 Burn Street, Williams Architects. I think Kylie basically laid out the issue, and we're very excited to support this project and be the architects and planners for it. A representative from the school board is here, and the councilman in the district is here also, if you have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the councilman or the representative like to speak? Oh, please, Councilman Green.
Well, thank you. I'm honored because
welcome.
Welcome. I'm pleased to be here, but I just wanted to say first, thank you all for your service to the city of New Orleans, and the work that you do makes a big difference in the city. I'm very excited about this project. This stadium is being built in an area that has been underserved by our entire city for a while. And I'm so appreciative of the fact that it's next door to Carver, a high school that's been getting a lot of recognition for a lot of successes, academic and the like. But I just want to thank you all for your service, and I ask you to support this and know that in doing so, you're supporting a project that's going to make a tremendous difference in a community, a historic community that's very important to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Green, could you just state your address for the record, please?
Councilman Eugene Green, 4939 St. Roch Avenue, New Orleans, 70122.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I don't have any other cards to speak. If not, then if there's any questions for the staff, or we'll take a motion. The staff recommendation is approval with 4 provisos.
Is the applicant okay with the 4 provisos? Yes. Okay, then I can go ahead and make a motion for approval of zoning docket item 03226, subject for provisos.
Commissioner Flick will second.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, let's vote. Oh, that would be me calling. Okay. Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Commissioner Josie Gupta?
Yes.
Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry, yes. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
All right. The motion carries. Best of luck. Councilman, anytime you want to join us down here, please come on.
Thank you all very much.
You're always welcome.
All right, thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Okay. We're moving on to zoning docket 033-26.
Zoning docket 03326 is a conditional use request to permit a single-family dwelling in a GPD General Plan Development District. Subject property is a corner through lot located at an unimproved intersection of Van Buren Street, Malmus Ave, and Jackson Street in the English Turn neighborhood. The applicant proposes constructing a single-family residence on the subject property that will total approximately 4,403 square feet. Current building plans have the residence fronting Van Buren Street with a driveway and garage and a large yard on the Jackson Street side. Upon review, staff determined that the proposal is consistent with the master plan and matches development patterns in this vicinity, i.e. single-family residence in GPD districts. Notably, the proposal as drawn does not comply with the interior side yard setback, which would require a setback equal to 10% of the lot width. In this instance, the applicant has provided 5 feet of setback and 9 feet 8 inches is required. A proviso addressing this deficiency has been included in staff's recommendation. In conclusion, staff is recommending approval subject to 3 provisos.
Thank you very much. Joseph Flint?
Joseph Flynn, 8903 Jefferson Highway, River Ridge, Louisiana, 70123. I am the architect on the project, and basically this is a non-developed space. It's mostly residential in nature. Their family members live close by, so they're just looking to build a house, a single-family residence on a piece of property that they purchased.
And you're aware that everyone's aware of the 3 provisos?
I just listened to them just now.
Okay. Are we okay with?
So the 10% of the interior lot line, that's...
I'll have staff.
Staff repeat the provisos.
Yeah, so for the interior side yard, there needs to be a setback of 3 feet or 10% of the lot width, whichever is greater. In this case, the greater would be 9 feet 8 inches.
Okay, so that, but in this case, we don't, the corner lot, what is the corner setback? Is that 10% not factor into both sides?
The corner
No,
side yard
it's the
would-
interior.
Just the interior? I'm sorry, what was the corner setback?
The minimum requirement is 10 feet for the corner side yard.
Okay. And that has to do with the width, the overall width of the lot, correct? So when we met, or when we discussed it, I think they kind of told us, because there was nothing in place, to come up with what we wanted to be in place, or what we were requesting. So, I mean, is that the process? If you guys go to single family, we would require a variance to then try to get this interior side lot line reduced?
You could request a variance to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Considering this is a vacant lot, a very large lot, I don't know that the board would find a hardship to grant that particular waiver. The easiest solution would be to shift and slightly reduce the proposed structure in size, or at least not necessarily reducing the size, but reducing the width of it slightly to meet both corner side yard and interior side yard setback.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
This is a conditional use. Couldn't the variance be incorporated into the conditional use approval?
It could. We haven't done the analysis for it because it was not requested.
Correct. I don't think,
And I don't think we would find a hardship either. The criteria are the same.
It is something that could be done in connection with this application. They wouldn't have to apply separately to the Board of Zoning Adjustments.
So it could be in conjunction with the application. It doesn't mean that it would be approved.
That is correct.
Okay.
And I think what Sabine was pointing out is the staff has not gone through the 9 criteria evaluation of that.
When is the deadline for this application?
May 23rd.
Okay. Just because it sounds like there may be some new information here than what you had previously known. So there could be a potential deferral if you're not comfortable with the provisos.
What is the, staff, what is the side yard setback in this situation, 10 feet?
So it's 10 feet on the left side, which is a minimum of 10 feet on the left side, which is a corner
Right.
side yard. And it would be a minimum of 10% of the lot width. Charles, can you
Yes.
remind me how much that would be?
Yeah, it's 10% or 3 feet, whichever is greater.
So 10% in this case would be 11 feet and some inches,
9 feet, 8 inches.
9 feet and some inches.
If they shifted the building, will they get the 9 feet, is the question.
They wouldn't get quite the 9 feet because they are right now
At 11.
11 feet and 5 inches from the corner side. So even if they were to push that to 10, they would only gain about 1.5 feet.
Right.
So that would not be sufficient.
Do we need to defer so that they can make adjustments that are in compliance, or do we send along with the proviso?
If you want them to do modifications of the plan that show compliance with the setback, we don't need to defer.
Yeah.
They would have just to show that in their final plans.
Would this be like a modified approval or tentative
No,
approval?
it would be approval
Okay.
subject to the provisos that we've recommended.
Okay.
So it sounds like you might have two options here. You could agree to the provisos and you can move forward, or we could potentially do a deferral and then you could go back to the plans.
I think we're just going to agree to the provisos.
Okay.
And just to clarify, like Bob said, we cannot incorporate the non-conforming side yard setback into this.
So I was responding to a comment that they would have to apply separately to the
Get a
Board of
variance.
Zoning Adjustments to get a variance, and that they would be able to, a variance can be considered along with the conditional use application. They have not requested it. We have not evaluated it. So, yeah.
So right now, we cannot do anything about that. Okay.
Applicant said they would agree to
Yeah.
the provisos.
Can I make a motion?
I would love you to.
I'll make a motion for approval subject to 3 provisos.
2 or 3? 3.
I second.
Okay, thank you. 3 provisos. Commissioner Josie Gupta, second. Any questions? All right, let's vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Witcher, yes. Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Josie Gupta? Commissioner Kepler?
Yes.
Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to zoning docket 034-26.
Zoning docket 034-26 is a request by City Council motion number M-26-53 for a text amendment to Article 18 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance to establish a new overlay district called the Berman Mixed Use Integrity Overlay District, the intent of which is to ensure that any multifamily developments proposed within the SMU Suburban Neighborhood Mixed Use District and the MU1 Medium Intensity Mixed Use District bounded by Wall Boulevard, Holiday Drive, and General de Gaulle Drive contain non-residential uses which align with the mixed-use goals of these districts. The overlay reflects a policy decision by the Council to ensure the mixed-use intentions of the zoning district is fulfilled by regulations that require true vertical mixed use in any future construction or redevelopment of existing multifamily developments. These standards reinforce the master plan's intent for ground floor activation, walkability, and an integration of residential and commercial uses within a unified development site. The area proposed for the Berman Mixed Use Integrity Overlay District includes property owned by the Orleans Parish School Board, as well as vacant and abandoned parcels within the SMU Suburban Neighborhood Mixed Use District and the MU2 High Intensity Mixed Use District. Although the motion does not explicitly reference the MU2 mixed use districts, the overlay has been expanded to include it in order to capture all mixed use zoning designations within the boundary area, as there currently is no MU1 medium intensity mixed use district present. To ensure that the overlay results in genuine mixed use development rather than incidental non-residential components, staff recommends the inclusion of measurable floor area, frontage, and accessibility standards, in addition to the existing use standards for non-residential uses allowed by right within the current existing zoning designation. Staff is recommending approval of zoning docket 034-26.
Thank you. I have no comment cards and no applicants since it's a city council motion. Is there a motion to approve? Thank you, Commissioner Kepper. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Poche seconds the motion for approval. Any discussion? Let's vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry, yes. Commissioner Flick?
Yes?
Commissioner Josie Gupta? Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Zoning docket 035-26.
So, zoning docket 03526 is in relation to the previous item. This is a proposed amendment to Article 19 of the CZO to establish an interim zoning district, or IZD, known as the Bierman Mixed Use Interim Zoning District, for properties within the SMU Suburban Neighborhood Mixed Use and MU1 Medium Intensity Mixed Use Districts bounded by Wall Boulevard, Holiday Drive, and General de Gaulle. The IZD would temporarily pause the development of standalone multifamily residential projects and require that future multifamily developments dedicate at least 50% of the ground floor to commercial use. The IZD is meant to serve as a bridge to the previous spoken about overlay district considered under ZD 03626 that, once adopted, would permanently implement this requirement to reinforce the mixed-use intent of the corridor and prevent further exclusive residential development in areas designated for integrated residential and commercial activity. Staff finds that this amendment is consistent with the master plan and future land use map for both the mixed-use, medium-density, and business center designations, both of which emphasize walkable neighborhood centers and integrated commercial and residential development. Therefore, staff recommends approval of zoning docket 03526.
Thank you. I don't have any cards unless someone is here to speak. Okay. If not, is there a motion?
Commissioner Flick will,
Wait.
Hold on one second.
will not.
If you want to speak, you have to complete a comment card and come on up.
Did you submit a comment card?
For zoning docket
What's your
35?
name? And this is on zoning docket?
This is not the data center. He's on the next one.
All right, no one's here to speak on this matter, so let's go ahead and, Commissioner Flick.
I did. I made a motion for approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Kepper. Any questions? Not, let's vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner Witry, yes. Commissioner Flick?
Yes?
Commissioner Josie Gupta?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries for approval. Now we have zoning docket 036-26.
Zoning docket 03626 is a request by City Council Motion M2662 for a text amendment to the CZO to establish definitions, use permissions, use standards, or any building development or design standards for data centers and related uses. The motion asks staff to consider density requirements, soundproofing, and other safety measures. In the past month, we have focused on learning about these uses. We have looked at similar cities facing the same concerns as models for zoning ordinances and regulations. We have spoken with internal and external stakeholders, including Safety and Permits, ITI, Curo, Entergy, Office of Community Development, Office of Economic Development, and others. These conversations have proven how complex these issues are, with greater potential impacts than uses we typically handle. Before moving anything forward, we want to make sure that all partners are all aligned, and because of this, we are asking for more time to develop recommendations in lockstep with all the partners that are critical to this use type. So this is a recommendation for a 30-day deferral.
Thank you. We have several cards here to speak, so we want to be able to give you all an opportunity. It doesn't look like there's any in support. We have one unsure, and then a lot of opposition, one info only. So maybe what I'll do is ask the info only to come up. Miss Edith Romeo. And then maybe I'll ask Miss Angela Bradford, since you marked both support and opposition. Hi.
Yes.
Please say your name and address.
My name is Edith Romero, and I live in 1918 General Taylor Street in New Orleans. And I am also part of IAM Surveillance, and I am here. I officially oppose data centers in the city, but I also want us to be very careful about the language that we use for zoning, because we've seen in other districts and cities that there are loopholes that are created by a certain language where data centers do creep in. I also know that right now we do have a moratorium, and I want to push for that to be a long-term solution rather than a short-term solution. We've seen across the country how data centers are creating a lot of issues, and we're talking about public health issues, we're talking about lack of resources, our electric bills going up. We as a city already have issues with water, and we already have issues with electricity, especially when hurricanes come in. And so I want to urge all the governing bodies to just oppose data centers in their entirety. Thank you.
Thank you. Angelique Bradford, Rosenberg.
Right. Hi, I'm Angelique Bradford Rosenberg, 1822 Urquhart Street, New Orleans, Louisiana 70116. I don't think I have much issue with the defining data centers anymore. Like, we're here, that's the point of the motion now. But just for the part of the motion where it says consider whether these uses should be permitted or conditional in any zoning district or overlay, and to implement appropriate use and design standards, I just want to emphasize, so I volunteer with Sierra Club Delta chapter, and we've been organizing across the state of Louisiana across data centers, and there's just been no circumstance where hyperscalers, big tech, so Amazon, Meta, where they've been good neighbors and good players within the system. And so I don't think there's any design standard soundproofing examples around the country where data centers have been good. So just hoping that as you put together the regulations around this, that you'll recognize that we just need, like what Edith was saying, a total ban, and that there's no standards in Orleans Parish or New Orleans that data centers could ever meet, where people would live a good quality of life. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'll name the next three: Karen Spencer, Cecilia Hammond, and Ahmad Jabbar. Jabber.
My name is Kieran from the Louisiana Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I implore this committee to treat this ordinance as more than a narrow zoning decision because its consequences extend far beyond land use. Data centers are not neutral. We all know they store and process enormous amounts of digital information. What many people don't know is that live video feeds, facial recognition systems, and drone surveillance all depend on the ability to process and store massive amounts of data. Data center infrastructure makes surveillance technology possible. This is important because at this very moment, the NOPD is expanding surveillance in ways New Orleanians have rejected again and again. Under its Drone as First Responder program, police drones would reach incidents before officers do and transmit live aerial footage directly to law enforcement. That footage requires storage and processing, and without data centers, that surveillance cannot scale up. We've seen what happens when powerful institutions get a hold of these invasive technologies. Private camera networks and facial recognition technology across the city have shown that when new surveillance is introduced, oversight comes later, if at all. So this is not just a zoning question. Permitting data centers means expanding surveillance capacity at the exact moment these systems are already growing rapidly. This decision does not only determine land use, it determines whether surveillance will become even more deeply embedded in everyday life in this city. The ordinance talks about density, soundproofing, and safety, but if quality of life matters, then privacy, transparency, and accountability have to matter as well. Data centers endanger our civil liberties, and the commissioners must reject them entirely. Thank you.
Could you please state your address for the record?
Sorry?
Could you please state your address for the record?
1339 St. Rock Avenue.
Thank you. Cecilia Hammond, and then Ahmad Jamar, and then Terrence Giles, Emily Walsh.
Hi, my name is Cecilia, 141 South Gayoso Street. I'm from the Louisiana Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I'm speaking against permitting data centers in the city of New Orleans under any circumstances. Data centers would not bring economic development to the city, which is this argument that we see being used over and over all across the U.S., where we're seeing these projects being green-lighted with false promises of economic prosperity for building in poor and Black communities. And then after the initial construction, we see that they create very few long-term jobs, while the working class communities surrounding them face skyrocketing electricity bills, parched freshwater resources, and pollution, and no amount of soundproofing or safety regulations can change these facts. And the city's infrastructure, in New Orleans specifically, is totally unprepared for the upcoming hurricane season, let alone a data center. We see how the city neglected its ancient pipe system until it reached a literal breaking point in the past few weeks. We've seen how Entergy makes us foot the bill for the damages after every hurricane, and we're tired of City Hall acting like inviting more private investment or more developers will solve the crises caused by their total neglect of working class people who make this city run. And we're tired of paying the price when they put profit over people time and time again. But at the same time, every place in this country where data centers are popping up, these unneeded centers that are sucking the fresh water and electricity resources and providing absolutely nothing for the communities, everywhere where big tech is trying to take over our communities, local people are getting organized and they're winning. In fact, in just 2 months of last year, 20 data centers worth $98 billion were defeated or delayed by community opposition. So I say that to emphasize the fact that if New Orleans doesn't commit today to preventing any future data center permits in the city, we are more than ready to fight back.
Thank you. Amat, please hold your applause.
Good afternoon. My name is Ahmed. I'm an organizer with the Louisiana Party for Socialism and Liberation.
Your address?
Was that?
Your address, please.
4999 Burgundy Street.
Thank you.
So I think everyone here really wants the same thing ultimately. We want a thriving, healthy, and safe New Orleans that can give its people a good life. The question is whether data centers will get us closer or further from that goal. So we all know that data centers require massive amounts of electricity and water to function. That puts strain on an already unstable electrical grid and decaying water pipes. So for these reasons like that, treating data centers as standard commercial use is inadequate and misleading. I'd like to be very clear on this point. Data centers, when you look at their impact on the surrounding area, are industrial infrastructure that turned the surrounding area into a sacrifice zone, and any discussion about them has to be centered around that fact. Just like any other industrial site, the negative impacts of a data center is not going to stay within its parcel of land or its zoning district. It's going to radiate outward onto communities that already struggle under the affordability crises, unreliable infrastructure, and environmental stress caused by the very system that's enabled and incentivized these data centers to spread so quickly across the country. Under that system, a large spike in energy demand is going to require expanded energy infrastructure like new power plants. New Orleans East residents already saw with the gas plant a few years ago that just means higher costs, worse air quality, and tens of millions in guaranteed profits for Entergy. So while this meeting is about what a data center is and where it may or may not be allowed, what the people of the city really need to know is whether this body, whether you are going to use your position in this process to approve development that's going to further immiserate communities. Commissioners, if we can't guarantee that projects like this one will not increase costs for residents, will not strain our water system, will not add to environmental destruction, and will not become yet another vehicle for Entergy and other corporate interests to profit at the public's expense, then frankly, we have much more urgent problems to solve before we can even begin to talk about where a data center could go. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrence Giles, Emily Walsh, Oga Adun. Oh, Osa. Okay, Osa. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
And my name is Terrence Giles, and my address is 5440 Grand Bayou Drive. So I'm born and raised in the East. I've been there all my life. And this is a very beautiful community. It's one of the most ethnically diverse parts of the city, and I really appreciate being there. And this is kind of typical ghoulish situation always happens in the East, that we really only see real development happen that when there's people from outside of the community, with an effort to create, wealth and extract it from outside that community. I think we all might know here, after Hurricane Katrina, there was an event where the houses wanted to be replaced by hotels and casinos. They essentially wanted to make it a kind of tiny Las Vegas. And through mounting public pressure, we were able to push that back. But I think this kind of continued attitude we see over and over again of the city's officials, of pushing back these different development initiatives, like short-term rentals was pushed back in the city council, then it was pushed through, and we see that has displaced many people. You could go through the entire city and see all these empty houses of short-term rentals that are being filled by residents of the city. So I kind of sit here and think, I really think we need to completely abolish any idea of data centers being put in the city, because I think it's hard to trust the convictions of so many people that say, we care about the city, we care about the residents, and the East has been this kind of, at this point, this kind of neglected, forgotten part of the city with a lot of beautiful people. And if I don't think we really ixnay the idea of a data center being in the East at all, anywhere in the city, I don't know if I can trust a lot of the people here and the people in power, that if they really care about the lives and the well-being of a lot of the residents of the East and the city. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Emily Walsh. I'm a resident of 4222 Ferret Street. I am here to speak against the possibility of data centers in New Orleans now and forever. This is not theoretical for me. I worked for an electrical contracting company that was wiring data centers until I resigned in December because I simply could not be complicit. Partnering with these big tech companies is partnering with the fascist government, and I refuse to be a part of that. Before we were working on EVs and battery recycling facilities. I've read every single word of Donald Trump's executive order, the National Policy Framework for AI, and what's being built is not just infrastructure, it's the backbone for mass data collection and surveillance. All of these companies have contracts with the Pentagon. Currently, they're not allowed to directly sell the government data, but they're going around that, and this executive order, which is not law, but apparently, the law doesn't matter anymore, kind of eliminates that. So they will be able to directly exchange our data with the fascist government. Who benefits from data centers? Tech CEOs, Donald Trump's government. Who is at risk? Every single one of us. The government has already decided, that dissenters are enemies and terrorists, and these data centers will help them catch us. We already know the environmental cost is huge, requiring massive amounts of electricity and water. We're on the front lines of climate change. We need to be reducing our energy burden, not inviting in some of the most energy-intensive facilities in existence. We already struggle with transparency and accountability from our corrupt utility providers. Residents already cannot afford their bills. History tells us what happens with these data centers. The costs get passed on to us, not the corporations or developers. These projects often come with very generous tax breaks and provide very few long-term jobs. One of the projects that I am familiar with from my job is the Meta Data Center in Jeffersonville, Indiana. It is an $800 million investment, over 700,000 square feet. It is taking over 1,200 construction workers to build, and they have a 35-year tax break. It will only provide 100 long-term jobs, if that, because that number comes from Meta. Thank you. I urge you to, in your language for this, make it no loopholes, no data centers in New Orleans now or ever. Thank you.
Thank you. Osa Ardon? Eyong Bailey? Jonathan Anthony Roberts? And Sheila Tahar.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm neither for or against the motion of defining.
Excuse me. Just your name and address for the record.
Sorry, my bad.
No problem.
Osa Dune, 9217 Apple Street. I'm neither for or against this motion of defining data centers because any selection could pigeonhole the conversation in a way that corporate tech interests could exploit. If we say no to defining, the argument is we allow loopholes for data centers, but that also remains the case in the methodology of how one defines data centers. If it is too wide or too narrow of a definition, the progress of technology usually outpaces the regulatory code and the standard taxonomy used to categorize the technology and its residuals. Additionally, I've learned from my time in economic development that innovation is less about invention and more about creative techniques to exploit legal technicalities, zoning especially. But they still may have the same sociological effects, socio-ecological effects. Hold on, I'm sorry, I meant to take that part out. I would like my public comment to reflect the reality of the current situation, given the national and state context that we're currently in, and I want this to be on the record for my community and the city that I hold dearly. I implore you as the commission to take account of the promises that Microsoft are making to vulnerable communities and be highly skeptical given the fact that Microsoft has approached the city shortly after the election of Mayor Helen Moreno. I also urge you to look at how other municipalities are handling this moment, but also to foresee the tactics that large corporate interests may use to get their way, like the proliferation of smaller data centers that could fit within proposed standards that could be networked in conjunction using cloud technology or new internet protocols for the same effect of a hyperscaler data center. I would encourage you to look at edge computing data centers and facilities that are similar to edge computing with the same scrutiny
Thank you.
of hyperscalers. Thank you.
Eyong Bailey?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ian Bailey. I live at 2000 Lakeshore Drive, completing my Bachelor of Science in Planning and Urban Studies at the University of New Orleans. I would like to reiterate the point that he made that we should be sitting here talking about it and not just be quick to move and make a decision on what is a data center so that we make sure that we think clearly about what it is that we're facing. The conversation about data centers in New Orleans East started with the site in New Orleans located at 10,200 Plainfield Drive. The zoning verification form referred to the listing as a modular data center, basically a prefab office building for computers. And I'm here to plainly state that office buildings for computers is not an appropriate land use for the city of New Orleans. Many people will be quick to say any investment is good investment because it creates jobs, yet we see here that in writing that the entire purpose of this building strategy is to house computers to do office work that would have been done by human people 10 years ago. The thing about these offices designed for computers is that they require a lot of energy and water resources to keep running efficiently. Water resources that the Sewage and Water Board of New Orleans has proven that it is not capable of providing. I would like to call everyone's attention to the failing water infrastructure that is impacting life for residents, school children, and businesses throughout the city of New Orleans, and it is no surprise that New Orleans East is the most affected neighborhood by these boil water advisories. How do I know this? I made a GIS map showing where boil water advisories were issued between January 2025 and March 2026. The neighborhood between Bullard Avenue, Hayne Boulevard, Morrison Road, and Wave Drive has been the most impacted neighborhood by boil water advisories. In the past 15 months alone, this neighborhood has experienced nine new or continuing boil water advisories. The zip code 70128, which is over 85% Black, according to the last census. So close to 18,000 people were not provided proper access to clean water that our taxes are supposed to fund. Additionally, when all residents are put together, residents of Venetian Isles were without clean water for nearly 2 weeks last year. And that's thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jonathan Anthony Roberts. And then Sheila Tahar. Okay. Is there anyone?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sheila Tahir. I live in Mid-City at 117 South Scott Street, but I was born and raised in New Orleans East. My parents still live there. My dad has been living there since the 60s, my mother since the 80s. They've raised my family there. My brother and his family live there now, and I have many friends who still reside in New Orleans East. I consider it my home and my community. When I was a teenager, after Hurricane Katrina, there was talk of replacing my home and my community with a park. Some of you are probably familiar with that plan. It was called the Green Dot Plan. And I remember how terrified and saddened that made me as a 15-year-old who had just had their home flooded, and you hear from the mayor at the time that they're going to replace your community with a park. So to me, this plan to build a data center in New Orleans East is reeking of the same sort of logics. The intention, I believe, is to displace the residents over time. That data center was supposed to be built in a neighborhood that is predominantly African American. It would bring with it terrible noise pollution, which we know is linked to many mental health problems and other health problems. It would bring water pollution. It would bring higher utility bills. It would lead to depreciating property values, which is already something that the community of New Orleans East suffers with due to stigma attached to this neighborhood and to harmful stereotypes that are used to depict it. This, my commissioners, is environmental racism. It would lead to the slow death of the community if this data center had been built. I appreciate the moratorium we have for a year, but I categorically oppose data centers in New Orleans East or anywhere else in the city. We always talk of the promise of economic benefits with data centers, but the truth of the matter is those rarely ever trickle down to those who live in the community. Who ends up reaping those benefits? Is it the investors? Perhaps it's the utility companies, the corporate stakeholders. Someone else gave me his time, so I'm going to keep going a little bit, if that's okay with y'all. So the benefits never...
Wait, just hold on 1 second.
Okay, sure.
Because he wasn't here, he can't see this time, but I'll ask a question so you can continue.
Thank you. It's going to be, I'm sure, I really appreciate that. As I was saying, the benefits never seem to trickle down to the residents of our beautiful city of New Orleans. And I love this place. It's my home. I'd love to be here forever, raise a family here. And just asking you today, commissioners, who do you represent? Do you represent us, the people who live in this city? Or do you represent these corporations, utility companies, and these tech lords who are really ruining the entire planet right now? So thank you for your time. Have a beautiful spring day.
Thank you. Sir, are you here to speak on this matter? Are you Jonathan Anthony Roberts? Okay, you can come up. I can't hear what your name is, so I can go ahead and look in the...
Okay, my name is Gary Crockett.
Okay.
I did turn in a card.
Yes, so I have Gary Crockett, and I have you as agenda item 9. I think this is 8, but we can go ahead and change.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Yes, state your name and address.
Okay, my address is 462 Lakeshore Parkway. And the reason that I'm here to speak is because New Orleans East is my backyard as well. And I'm here speaking as a business owner. I own 2 technology companies. And so I've definitely been involved in this industry in the past. What is unique about this data center is that it's in an area that typically doesn't hold data centers. Data centers are usually in areas where utility costs are low, which is different here. Also, we have no regulations here in the state or in the city concerning data centers, which we should have. That has to do with both environmental, noise concerns, health concerns as well. Each data center is going to have some type of generator, usually diesel, which is going to expect respiration as well. So one of the first things I want to say is that we really need some governance around data centers or any other technology similar to it before we even say yes or no. In addition to that, what we need to do is look at the health effects from generators being in that area. The other is, why in our backyard? Even though I live in West End, my family lives in New Orleans East and friends. And what we need to consider is, what is the actual effect? Why is a company wanting to come to New Orleans and Louisiana in general, where our utility rates are high? Here in America, the highest concentration of data centers is actually in Northern Virginia, where utility costs are quite low, and they have regulations. So for a company to come here with promises of jobs, first of all, in our regulations, we need to make sure it has teeth, not projected jobs, but actual jobs. We'd love to have more conversations about this before we make any move.
Thank you. So I have a Jonathan Anthony Roberts. Okay, so that's all the cards I have to speak on number 8. Remember, the recommendation is deferral to April 28th.
I wanted to make a comment.
Yes.
I hear much of the commentary, and I agree with a lot of it. I think part of the issue, and this gentleman referred to it earlier, is that we don't have anything in place regulatory-wise from safety and permits or from the building code or the energy code or the mechanical code at the state level to address this. And so if we defined anything, it would fall under a category that it isn't currently defined in the code. So I don't think it's enough just to say that we as a city are giving it a designation. There needs to be communication across multiple departments to address this. Otherwise, things will fall through the cracks, and there are data centers in cities like Chicago, and those are located downtown, and those came with their own set of regulations and rules in place to build that to a certain standard, and we just don't have that. We also have an issue with enforcement. So I really have a problem with just saying data center anywhere in the city, and certainly New Orleans East, but this regulation would apply to the city as a whole, not just one particular area. I can make a motion for deferral. I just wanted to state that for the record.
Thank you, Commissioner Flick. Well said.
Feel similarly about data centers. I mean, not to reiterate what everybody has said, but they have destroyed many communities across America. We now have a very large data center being built in the middle of Louisiana, which is supposed to be one of the biggest data centers. Until data centers actually figure out a way to be efficient with their water and electricity use, or use an alternative form of energy that does not destroy communities, I think data centers really need to put a pause on expanding into communities. So there has to be thought on alternative energy uses that are not taking water and electricity from our communities.
Thank you.
And that is the second, yes.
So you made an official motion for deferral? Okay, and there's a second. All right, any discussion? No, let's vote. Commissioner
Jordan.
Jordan.
Yes, and I'm in alignment with Commissioner Flick and Commissioner Joshi Gupta.
Commissioner Witry, yes. Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Joshi Gupta?
Yes.
Commissioner Kepner?
Yes.
Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
All right, the motion carries for a deferral until April 28th. We want to thank everyone that's come to speak. If you would like to come back, I know you have to probably take off work and come and spend the afternoon with us, but it's important you're here. You have a lot to say. So that would be for April 28th. We also have another zoning docket next, which is zoning docket 037-26. I think some of you have cards to speak as well, and that's also been a request for deferral, but please go ahead and.
Right. Zoning docket 03726 is the request for a text amendment to Article 19 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance for the Interim Zoning District, the IZD, called the Data Center Interim Zoning District, for the purpose of prohibiting the issuance of any occupational license, or otherwise permit the operation of data centers. The IZD has been in effect since City Council Motion M2663 was proposed, and staff's requesting a deferral for 1 month in alignment with the previous zoning docket.
Thank you. I do have McCartan's support. Angel Bradford. Oh, you're in support of the deferral, correct? Well, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard when you have support and oppose. 'Cause, yeah.
Yes,
Angel
yeah.
Bradford Rosenberg, 1822 Urquhart Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70116. And I know we can't ask you questions, but I would just say it would be good if y'all would explain, like for this one, what the impact actually would be, because the way that it's written with the IZD, I am in support of it because, or if the IZD covers all of Orleans Parish, and that means that under the IZD, it would be a complete prohibition of data centers. So that I want to be clear about what my support means. And then just to the larger point, and points that have been made, I just want to like clarify though, I get that like there is a belief or understanding that there are guardrails in other places, kind of, but like whenever we talk to people who are in Arizona or even Virginia, getting guardrails in place at any level has been a bear. Because big tech has put so much money into stopping those regulations. And so, again, I'll just emphasize, there's really no examples of big tech being good. Even if this was fully renewable energy supported data centers, there's still the concerns and the moral issue of surveillance and how that is being used against community, both domestically and internationally. And so the question is that trade-off worth it? Economically and generally for the tax exemptions and the fact that they're not actually employing local people, it's not. And so between that and then also the promises of water positivity, which is not really a thing, the NDAs, now the Lightning Amendment at the PSC, et cetera, data centers just aren't good. And so just emphasizing, yes, supporting this if it's the entire Orleans Parish covered by it. Thank you.
Thank you. Annie Morgan? And then Gary Crockett again, if you'd like to.
Hi, I'm Annie Moran. I really prefer not to do.
Hi.
Is that?
Your address.
Oh, is my comment not recorded if I don't give my address?
I'll ask our legal department.
Okay. Let's just say for now I'm a resident of New Orleans.
Hold on a second.
Wait, 1 second.
Okay.
I understand your question. You just need to give me 1 second. And
Sure.
Just advice. By that, after Annie, then we have Ely Bailey and Ian Bailey, and then Tashia Gaspard. And those are all the cards I have to speak. So,
And while she's figuring that out, let me also just say, the last couple.
Maybe,
Oh, okay.
can't hand it, sorry.
actually, staff, could you answer the previous question about where the IZD, if it applies to all of New Orleans from the previous commenter?
It does, yes.
It does, okay. All New Orleans encompassing. Thank you.
We have rules here that we need to follow.
I got you. Okay. It was more of a sidebar, not a.
Right.
Not
But then we don't want to go
agenda.
into your 2 minutes, and we need to be able
Yeah.
to.
While she's looking it up, if it is in the rules, okay, it is in the rules, and the commission is the keeper of the rules, so.
So we would have to have a motion to suspend the rules to allow our individual to speak and not to be able to give her address.
So moved.
Well, we'd have to, I'm making a suggestion for a motion, and I can't give a motion, so if there is a motion. Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
Okay, will you state your motion?
I move to suspend the rules so we can hear this resident's comments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
I generally just am concerned about setting a precedence for not having to follow the rules that have been in place for however long, and everyone else who is here follows the rules.
I'll state my address.
And just as another before we as we're updating our rules, this is something that can be
Yeah, it's a
considered.
public safety concern, you know.
And so are you retracting your, or are we going to vote? We can vote.
Can the resident submit their address privately for the record?
That would still be a suspension of the rules.
Okay.
All right, so let's, there's a first and a second. We can vote. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Wait, no, sorry. I forgot the motion is to suspend.
Yes. So no. Okay, Commissioner Witry is a no.
No.
Commissioner Flick is a no. Commissioner Josie Gupta?
No.
Commissioner Kepper?
I'm a yes.
Okay, Commissioner Poche?
No.
Okay, so the motion does not carry. So if you don't mind stating your rules, but then the rules.
Your address.
They don't serve us lunch, you know?
And you know, I'd like to just go on record and say, like, thank you for elevating this. This is
Yes.
the thing we're trying to figure out. The other side of that is sometimes we get anonymous people giving comments who aren't connected to the city at all. And so it's trying to balance.
I understand.
That.
But we hear you, and we
Yeah.
are discussing this. So please go ahead, state your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Annie Moran, and my address is 1733 Dual Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, 70119. So I also am in support of the motion only if it includes the entire Orleans Parish. I don't believe that we need data centers in New Orleans now or ever. For all of the other reasons the other speakers probably much more eloquently stated than I will. Noise pollution, water pollution, water shortages, electricity and water bill skyrocketing. You know, these corporations that own the data centers aren't paying their fair share of the utility bills, and those bills are being passed on to the residents. And we live in a state where historically and continuously our elected officials have been selling out our natural resources and our quality of life for the profit of corporations, largely who aren't even headquartered in Louisiana. The UN has recently declared that the world is in a water bankruptcy. I don't think that New Orleans should be participating and contributing to that when we are a city that already has significant water problems. And additionally, we are very behind in terms of sustainability. I mean, we still throw plastic at people in droves during Mardi Gras season. You know, we need to catch up with the rest of the world on sustainability, and I would love to see us lead.
Thank you. You can finish your comment.
I just wanted to actually thank all of you, because this is, in the last couple of weeks, I've attended my first 2 city council meetings to give public comments, and the way that you have actively listened to the speakers here and been respectful isn't quite the contrast to the council. And I just want to thank you all for that.
Thank you. Chris Lang. Lang or Long? Lang, thank you. Oh, you know what? There was another card in front of you and I missed. Bailey? Ian? And Tashia Gaspard? And then Chris. Thank you.
Hello again, and I appreciate your time. I also agree with the other speakers who've
Name
gone
and
on.
address,
Oh, I'm
please.
sorry. Okay. My name is Ian Bailey, 2000 Lakeshore Drive. I also want to agree with the people who went before me, speaking about a moratorium for the entire parish of Orleans. We've been struggling to provide water to the people who live here. Adding more strain to this system by allowing office buildings for computers will create a need for us to pump more water, which will lead to the depletion of our natural underground aquifer. If we don't sustain our underground aquifer, then subsidence, which is the effect that the land here is sinking, will only grow worse. What New Orleans East needs is access to high-paying jobs. If the high-paying jobs aren't located in the East directly, then residents should at least be afforded access to reliable transportation. I'm calling on y'all to keep the RTA accountable to the BRT project where they want to build a bus between New Orleans East and the West Bank. The bus stop should be shaded. We should be planting native trees that provide shade for our workers and our residents. You may be able to persuade people, but you can't bullshit geography. We live in a city bordered by water on at least 3 sides. Our land is sinking, and like the other constituent mentioned, the United Nations has announced that the world has experienced a shortage of fresh water that we use to drink, cook, and bathe with. So we need to be mindful of the land uses we allow. We need to be quick to conserve the natural resources we have, and we need to stop allowing corporate interests to be worth more to our city's leadership than the quality of life for residents of New Orleans. One of the problems that we face as a city is a shrinking tax base. So I ask you all as the council, what is the city of New Orleans doing to attract and keep young talent that lives in the city? I've learned through my time at my undergraduate program that the physical landscape that we build with planning policies helps to either encourage or discourage certain behaviors that we see in people, whether they go to work, how they get to work. These are things that we need to be considering as we consider the future of New Orleans. And again, I appreciate you for your time.
Thank you. Tashia Gaspard? Chris? Lang. And that's the last speaker that I have.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Lang. I live at 2500 Dauphine Street. I'm going to echo what everybody said about the environmental and economic and utility issues that a data center can provide. I also, just thinking about the era that we're in, we have the most wealth inequality across the country that we've seen since like the 1920s, and data centers and this tech revolution is only accentuating that and exacerbating it, because the data gets in the hands of a few and they're able to use that and monetize and build off of that wealth disparity. And as many folks have alluded to, the job creation that is the promise of a data center is really much a myth, and it just kind of doubles down in our surveillance and also our data being extracted for us for the benefit of them to surveil us and extract more money from us and not give us much in return besides the environmental pollutants. While we're talking about the moratorium, I would love to see it citywide indefinitely for forever in the future, but we're also, coming off of a prior conversation around waste diversion and recycling. I'm also thinking about other economic development initiatives that would be beneficial in terms of zoning, including a recycling facility. But these have been actually on the table since 2012 for rezoning that actually could provide us real meaningful material jobs, green jobs that can help us become more sustainable as a city, not a data center which is going to go to probably out-of-town pockets and compromise our utilities, as everybody said. So thank you for your time. As Annie had mentioned earlier, the respect that we're seeing here, the attentive ear that we're, you can palpably feel that, and I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you. So no one else is here to speak? All right, commissioners, do you have any questions? If not, we have a recommendation for a deferral to April 28th.
I'll move deferral to April 28th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Questions, comments? If not, then Commissioner the public portion's closed. So Commissioner Poche,
Yes.
Commissioner Kepper,
Yes.
Commissioner Josie Gupta? Yes. Commissioner Flick?
Yes?
Commissioner Witchery, yes. Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Great. Then the motion carries, and once again, we'd like for y'all to come back and speak on April 28th to be able to share since it's been deferred. I know you have to take off work, but we'd like to hear from you again.
Yeah.
But all of your comments will be transmitted for speaking today as well.
Yep.
So let's move to subdivision ratifications.
Yes, this is a list of subdivision where you are ratifying or determination that the applications may be reviewed and approved administratively.
Perfect. Is there a,
I'll make the motion to approve subdivisions.
Second?
thank you. Any discussion? Commissioner Poche?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Kepper?
Yes.
Commissioner Josie Gupta? Commissioner Flick?
Yes.
Commissioner Witchery? Commissioner Jordan, yes?
Yes.
Yes. That motion carries. I would like a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank
And
you. There's a second, and we're done. And hopefully our computers.
I second.
Commissioner Jordan worked. Hopefully our computers will work. Thank you, everyone.